Welcome back to the channel. Today, we will explore together a touching story of a German Shepherd and a kind woman's journey from chains to freedom. Through this video, you will witness every painful moment, the desperate efforts to search for yourself, to the brave rescue and the spontaneous recovery of your four-legged friend. We will follow each step of the transformation from a life full of suffering, when the dog was chained and lived in loneliness and neglect, to the fateful moment when a woman appeared, bringing love and hope. Prepare yourself for moments of silence and deeply feel the power of kindness, when a small action can change fate and inspire faith in life. If you're looking for new energy, faith, and messages of healing from love, join us in exploring this story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on our next inspirational videos. Let's spread the message that every heart, no matter how broken, deserves to live and be loved. Before entering the emotional story of Rocky, let us imagine a gloomy scene where time seems to slow down in the suburbs of an old city. Here, the houses have been worn down over the years, the paint is peeling, the walls are discolored, and the iron fences are rusting, telling sad stories of the past. This small street, quiet and deserted, seems to be forgotten by the world, where the raindrops fall as if soaked in nostalgia and loneliness. In the midst of this scene, there is a small yard hidden among the ruins of memories, where life seems to have been swept away by the storm. It is in this simple garden that Rocky, a German Shepherd dog that was once strong and full of life, now lives in heartbreaking isolation. His eyes, once bright with faith and enthusiasm, now contain only deep sadness, reflecting the pain he has endured throughout the years. His once glossy coat has lost its natural beauty, dyed with weariness and oblivion. Rocky is not allowed to enjoy the freedom that other dogs have to run and explore the vast world. Instead, he is imprisoned by a rusty chain that clings tightly around his neck, like an invisible shackle that weighs down on his mind and body. The chain is not only a physical obstacle, but also a symbol of years of pain, of neglect and misery. It reminds him every time he moves, every time he dreams of freedom, that the cruel past still haunts him. Every morning, when the faint light of dawn filters through the gray clouds, Rocky wakes up in pain as the cold chain bites into his skin, reminding him of bitter memories. The sound of the outside world, the chirping of birds, the wind blowing through the gaps in the fence, were like a promising invitation, evoking in his heart a desire to be free, to live fully like any other living being. But instead of being able to immerse himself in the music of life, he could only quietly look out, daydreaming and suffering in the loneliness of the forgotten garden. That image, simple yet sad, was deeply engraved in the hearts of anyone who had the chance to witness it. It was a picture of oblivion, of souls left behind, where loneliness and pain not only existed but also added to the wounds that were difficult to heal. And in that moment when it seemed like there was no hope, fate arranged for Rocky an unexpected turn. A person with a warm heart and compassion would enter his life, bringing with him the warmth of love and the light of hope, promising a new beginning for the forgotten soul. In the quiet space of the abandoned yard, Rocky's every day is a series of pain and disappointment. There is no laughter, no happy sounds, only loneliness and the sighs of the cold wind. Rocky wakes up with a sharp pain from the rusty chain wrapped around his neck. The chain not only restricts his fragile movements, but also haunts him, reminding him of a cruel past that he cannot forget. Every morning, when the weak dawn begins to creep through the dark clouds, Rocky opens his eyes gradually, facing the life that he can only see from afar. The harshness of life is present through every wound, every cut caused by the old chain. The scratches not only damage his skin, but also prove his desperate efforts to find a way out. He used to use his claws and teeth to scratch, hoping that one day he could break the chain, but all in vain. Rocky could only stand and look out through the gaps in the fence, where the outside world was full of life and hope. The sound of birds chirping, the rustling of leaves in the wind, and even the distant footsteps of passers-by were like dreamy invitations, evoking in him a desire for freedom and a meaningful life. But that hope seemed to be just a distant dream, as Rocky still had to endure the pain that never ceased, as every step was a battle against fate itself. As night fell, darkness enveloped the garden. Rocky felt more clearly the emptiness of life. In the dead of night, only the sound of the cold wind blowing through the fence and his own sighs were his companions. He wondered if anyone would ever remember him, if anyone would come to save him from this painful situation. Although his body was weak and tired to the bone, inside Rocky still kept a ray of hope, a fragile belief that maybe one day everything would change. In that silence, Rocky not only endured the pain of the past, but also silently longed to experience life to the fullest, to run and jump in the sunlight, to feel the joy of being free. Those painful moments, although extremely cruel, were witnesses of a haunting past, making everyone who witnessed them feel pity and fragility for his fate. It was at the moment when it seemed like there was no way out, when the rusty chain was always a reminder of the forgotten years, that fate quietly arranged for Rocky a meeting that would change everything. A meeting with someone who carried the light of love and hope, promising to open a new chapter for a soul that had been forgotten. Despite living in pain and imprisonment, Rocky still had a small spark of desire for freedom. Every day that passed, even though his body was severely damaged and his spirit was gradually paralyzed by loneliness, Rocky still silently searched for a chance to live a different life. He often looked outside through the narrow gaps in the fence, where he could see a part of the outside world, a world he could only dream of, where laughter, warm voices, and joy of life spread everywhere. In the silence of the morning, when the faint light of dawn began to filter through the thick clouds, Rocky tried to walk, although each step brought with it a sharp pain from the rusty chain biting into his skin. Every time he moved, he sent a small hope that perhaps one day, fate would give him a chance to escape those shackles. Although his efforts were only weak, slow movements, and sometimes seemed to achieve nothing, they were the manifestation of a strong will to live that never gave up. In the dark moments of noon, when the sweltering heat crept into Rocky's weak muscles, he still kept an eye on the silhouettes of passers-by. The echoing laughter, the bustling voices, and even the gentle touches of the wind carrying the scent of freedom all seemed like gentle invitations, reminding him that life out there was still full of good things. Even in silence, Rocky always watched and listened, as if he was learning to light a glimmer of hope in his tired heart. When the sun set, with the atmosphere cool but still filled with the sadness of a long day, Rocky often told himself, maybe tomorrow, maybe something will change. In that moment, he imagined the image of a free dog, no longer burdened by constraints, running around with boundless joy. Those images were not just illusions of a dream, but also a testament to the inner strength that Rocky had retained through years of neglect. Every effort, no matter how small, every step, no matter how slow, was an affirmation that in this world, even imprisoned souls had the right to dream and seek freedom. That desire, though fragile, was so strong that it could light up even the darkest corners of the forgotten garden, waiting for the fateful moment when everything would change forever. In silence, Rocky created Song of Hope, or Song of Perseverance, of the will to never give up, no matter how tormented fate was. One late afternoon, when the last rays of sunlight dyed the sky yellow and cooled the sweltering heat of noon, Rocky's fate began to show signs of change. While the garden was still as quiet as ever, a gentle footstep echoed on the surrounding path. It was the footstep of a woman with a warm heart and eyes filled with sympathy. As I walked through the garden, her gaze suddenly stopped at the image of Rocky, a skinny dog, his sad eyes looking out through the gaps in the fence. In that moment, the two seemed to be connected by an invisible thread of pain and hope. Ha gently stopped, bent down, and placed her hand on Rocky's side, as if wanting to give him a little comfort that he had never felt before. The initial moments were filled with caution and anxiety, but Rocky's eyes gradually softened when he felt the sincerity in Ha's gesture. She whispered softly, as if to soothe his every wound, "You are not alone anymore. You deserve to be loved." Those words echoed in the quiet space, like a faint ray of light, but enough to light up in Rocky a fragile belief in another tomorrow. In that moment, the air seemed to be less heavy. The sounds of the outside world, birds chirping, leaves falling gently, mixed in like gentle background music. Rocky, who had become accustomed to the silence of loneliness, began to realize that someone truly cared about him. He no longer felt abandoned, because now there was someone willing to give him a little love and hope. That was the moment of change, when Rocky's fate suddenly showed signs of brightening. The touching encounter between him and Ha opened a new door, promising a future where he would be free, cared for, and loved like every living being deserved. In that moment, all the pain of the past seemed to give way to new hope, and two hearts, though wounded, began to find each other through the light of compassion. Looking into Rocky's sad eyes, I felt the pain of a soul that had been forgotten for so many years. Her heart was squeezed by grief and helplessness when witnessing that bitter scene. Unable to stand by and watch Rocky continue to suffer in pain and loneliness, I knew that she had to do something, even a small action, to change his fate. Immediately after the touching moment with Rocky, I made a strong decision. She would not wait for anyone to come to save him, but act on her own. At first, she tried to contact the authorities, hoping that their intervention would bring Rocky to a brighter future. However, when she learned that the process of help could be prolonged and that Rocky would continue to suffer while waiting, her will to act immediately rose even more. In that decisive moment, all hesitation disappeared. Instead, she had a strong belief in the power of kindness. Ha told herself that in this life, sometimes we need to bravely step out, even though the risks may come, to save the broken pieces of a lost soul. She realized that Rocky not only needed physical intervention, but also needed to receive love to heal the deep wounds of the heart. With that determination, Ha knew that she had to act right now. She looked at Rocky, saw his tired eyes but still a little sparkle of hope, and understood that every passing moment could be the last chance to change his life. Although she knew that her actions could cause risks or troubles in the future, love and compassion surpassed everything. And in that moment, Ha decided that she would be the one to give Rocky a second chance, would not let him continue to live in the deadlock of the past. With emotions surging, Ha gently stroked Rocky's fur, then made a decision. You deserve to live in love and freedom. I will do everything I can so you don't have to suffer anymore. With that determined vow, Ha prepared for the next step, the act of rescue that would not only free Rocky's body, but also open the door to a future filled with hope and healing. With determination kindled in her warm heart, Ha did not hesitate to take action to rescue Rocky. Under the golden sunset, when the last light of the day gently kissed the old garden, Ha gently approached Rocky with eyes full of sympathy and determination. Before her eyes was the image of a skinny dog, sad eyes but still carrying within them a fragile hope of freedom. Ha observed around the garden, looking for any tools that could help him escape from the painful chains. And then, in a hidden corner of the old house, she discovered a forgotten toolkit, including an old but still intact pair of clippers. Her heart beat fast, but with calmness and compassion, Ha gently placed her hand on Rocky's fur, whispering words of comfort. Don't be afraid, my dear. I will help you be free. Carefully but resolutely, Ha took the cutters and slowly approached the rusty chain that held Rocky. She positioned the tool precisely at the point where the chain was most tightly attached around his neck, where the wounds caused by the shackles clearly showed the cruelty of the past. In that tense moment, the surrounding space seemed to be silent. Only the strong beating of their hearts and the shaky breathing of both of them remained. With a determined grip, Ha tightened her grip on the cutters. The screeching sound of the rusty chain breaking echoed throughout the garden like an affirmation of liberation. Immediately, Rocky trembled in shock. His body crumpled, but within his eyes gradually flashed a glimmer of freedom. Although he was still trembling and enduring new pain, the moment the chain disintegrated marked the first turning point on the path to finding his life again. Ha bent down beside Rocky, carefully caressing his wounds and whispering, I am free now. Now we will begin a new journey, a journey of hope and love. In that moment, both of them seemed to breathe together, a sacred moment where the dark past gradually gave way to the light of freedom and healing. With her courageous act, Ha not only freed Rocky from the bonds of the body, but also opened the door to a promising future. It was an act that not only marked the transformation of a forgotten creature, but also affirmed the belief that, in the darkest moments, true love can bring new light in life. As soon as the rusty chain disappeared, Rocky was gently held in Ha's arms. At that moment, the pain of the past was still present, but gradually, a new ray of hope appeared in his eyes. Ha quickly called an ambulance and brought Rocky to the local rescue station, where a team of experienced veterinarians were waiting. At the rescue station, Rocky received dedicated care from the very first minutes. The wounds caused by the chain were cleaned, carefully sutured and bandaged to prevent infection. Under the care of the doctors, Rocky gradually regained his vitality. Each dose of medicine, each batch of nutritious food, and each drop of cool water was medicine for his soul and body. Although the dark past was still deeply imprinted in the scars, with each passing day, the weak body gradually became stronger, and a smile, though small, began to appear on Rocky's face. Throughout the treatment, I was always there for Rocky. She talked gently, telling him about the beautiful things out there, about the blue sky, the open fields, and about the life he deserved. Each of Ha's words was like spiritual medicine, helping Rocky gradually open his heart, gradually trust. And people. In the early days, he just lay quietly on the small bed in the cage, his eyes sadly looking into the distance. But not long after, Rocky's slow gestures began to show signs of revival. A slight wagging of the tail, a grateful wink, even the first faltering steps. More than just a physical recovery, the treatment process was also a journey of healing the soul. Rocky, who had lived in loneliness and pain, gradually learned to believe in love. Every time Ha entered the room, his eyes lit up, and his heart was filled with faith that, despite all the events, there still existed a world filled with love and care. In that moment, as Rocky slowly overcame the fear and longing of the past, a powerful message was engraved. No matter how hurt, no matter how cruel the ordeal, the strong spirit of life and the power of kindness always had the ability to heal all wounds. Rocky not only recovered physically, but also regained faith in life. The belief that true love can turn pain into motivation to live, to love, and to hope for a brighter tomorrow. As time passed, Rocky gradually became stronger, not only physically, but also mentally. Every day, under Ha's loving and devoted care, he gradually regained his faith in life. The wounds of the past, although still there, were no longer a burden. They became milestones of victory, proof of the power of perseverance and love. Rocky, now, is no longer the image of an imprisoned dog, but has become a symbol of hope and revival. He runs and jumps lightly in the park, his eyes filled with joy, seemingly celebrating the freedom that he could only dream of before. Ha, always by his side, has proven that true love can change fate, that a small act of kindness can light up a life. In those peaceful moments, amidst Rocky's laughter and innocent steps, the message of the story becomes more vivid than ever. In the darkest moments, just a ray of hope from sincere love. We can open the door to freedom and happiness. Every living being deserves to live, to be loved, and to be given a second chance. Rocky and Ha's story is not only a journey from suffering to freedom, but also a reminder to all of us that in this life, no one should be forgotten. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to spread, contributing to connecting people together and creating a community full of love. Now, as Rocky is seen running freely under the clear blue sky, Ha knows that her mission is not just to save a soul, but also to inspire others to believe that, although life may be full of challenges, as long as we open our hearts and share, every wound can be a source of strength for a bright future. And so Rocky and Ha's journey continues, a journey of healing, of renewed faith, and of unconditional love, ready to overcome all challenges to affirm that every heart, no matter how broken, can be mended, and together we will create a warm and hopeful world.